We often hear that phrase, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Sounds nice, right? And very democratic.
Yeah, it does. It suggests it's all subjective.
But what if I told you that, well, scientifically speaking, it's maybe a bit misleading?
Uh-huh.
Because studies, and this is the hook, they found some pretty surprising real-world impacts of just, well, how attractive someone is perceived. Things that go way beyond preference.
Like what, for instance?
Well, things like attractive individuals potentially paying lower bail, or being more likely to get hired for a job.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's powerful stuff and often totally unacknowledged.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into what really makes a face attractive. Are there universals? Is it all personal?
And also looking at how we perceive emotions in faces, especially the genuine ones, based on some really interesting recent research.
Okay, let's unpack it. Philosophers like David Hume argued for centuries that beauty is just, quote, merely in the mind.
Right, the classic subjective view.
But then you look at the cross-cultural research,
Mm.
and it tells, well, a pretty different story. It suggests there are some universal standards.
Mm-hmm. And these seem rooted deep in our evolutionary history.
So evolution, how does that work with faces?
Well, the idea is that our preferences sort of guide us towards mates who give our genes the best shot at survival.
Okay.
And this often translates into an unconscious pull towards external traits that signal, good genetic quality, health, stuff like that.
So it's not just, I like this look. It's our genes whispering, maybe. Deep programming.
Kind of, yeah. Take symmetry, for example. That's a big one.
All right. Symmetry.
A symmetric face generally indicates good genes, good developmental stability, like the studies on identical twins.
Yeah.
They consistently find the twin with the slightly more symmetric features is rated as more attractive.
Huh. And is that just a Western thing?
Nope. It's seen across diverse groups. African hunter-gatherers, for instance, even observed in macaque monkeys.
Wow. Okay. So symmetry is pretty fundamental. What else?
Averageness. This goes back to Francis Galton, actually.
Averageness. So like plain?
Not exactly plain. More like
Yeah.
if you blend multiple faces together using computer graphics,
Uh-huh.
the resulting composite face, the average face, tends to be seen as more attractive than the individual faces that went into it. And the more faces you blend, the more attractive it gets.
That seems so counterintuitive. You'd think unique features would stand out.
You would, but the research confirms it. And averageness and symmetry, they seem to boost attractiveness independently of each other.
Okay, so we have these universals, symmetry, averageness, but attraction must be more nuanced than that.
Oh, absolutely. That's where things get more complex. Secondary sexual characteristics play a big role. Things influenced by hormones.
Like facial masculinity or femininity.
Exactly. Now, feminine female faces
Okay.
pretty consistently found attractive across cultures. That seems fairly universal.
Right.
But for male faces, it's more varied. The preference for masculinity isn't always strong.
Really? I thought the sort of rugged look was always preferred.
Not necessarily. And here's a bit of a surprise hook. Studies in both Japanese and Caucasian populations actually showed a preference for more feminized male faces.
Wow. Okay, didn't see that coming. So the chiseled jaw isn't always the winner.
Apparently not, or at least not universally. It depends.
What about things beyond just bone structure, like skin?
Yes, huge factor. Perceived skin health is a really significant, universally agreed upon attractive trait.
Makes sense. It likely signals a healthy potential partner, right?
Yeah.
Evolutionarily speaking again.
Precisely. And then there's that whole stereotype, what is beautiful is good.
Oh, yeah. The idea that attractive people are automatically seen as having better personalities. Kinder, smarter, etc.
Exactly. That's a well-known bias. But interestingly, research has sort of flipped the script on that, too.
How so?
Well, it shows that what is good is beautiful, meaning if you value certain personality traits like kindness or intelligence, that can actually change how attractive you physically find someone's face. Your values reshape your perception.
That's really interesting. So our internal world really does mold how we see the external.
Definitely. And our internal state is dynamic, right? Hormones play a part, too.
How do hormones affect things?
Well, for women, studies suggest their preference for masculine male faces might get stronger around ovulation, especially if they're thinking about short-term relationships.
Okay, that connects back to the good genes idea, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. And for men, higher testosterone levels seem to correlate with an increased preference for more feminine female faces.
It's all so interconnected. Biology, psychology.
And context, even the environment matters, like in
Sure.
places where resources are scarce.
Yeah.
Women might actually prefer male partners who signal commitment, maybe more feminine-faced men over the good genes guys, especially for long-term partnerships.
So security versus purely genetic factors.
It could be a trade-off, yeah.
Hmm.
And social learning is huge, too. Get this. Studies found a man is rated as more attractive for a long-term thing if he's pictured with an already attractive partner.
No way.
Yeah.
Like beauty rubs off.
They call it radiating beauty. It's fascinating how much our social cues influence perception.
Okay, so we've covered static features, hormones, context,
No.
but faces move. They express emotions. How important is reading genuine emotion?
Absolutely crucial. Which brings us to some really cool research using the Warsaw set of emotional facial expression pictures, WSEFEP for short.
WSEFEP. What's unique about that?
Their whole method, they didn't just have people pose emotions, they used the Stanislavski acting method.
The method acting technique.
Yeah, so the participants actually had to feel the emotion they were portraying, generate genuine felt expressions.
So much closer to real life than just a fake smile or frown. More ecologically valid, as they say.
Exactly, and then they validated these expressions really carefully using a novel circle of emotions method where over 1,300 judges rated the purity and intensity, not just ticking a box for happy or sad.
Sounds incredibly thorough. What did they find? Did people agree on these genuine expressions?
They got really high agreement, an average of over 82% for recognizing the intended emotion, which is as good or better than many other data sets.
Any surprises in the recognition rates?
Well, disgust was recognized really well, over 90% accuracy, but fear, interestingly, was often confused with surprise, about 23% of the time.
Huh. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
A sudden fearful event can look a lot like surprise initially.
Right. It highlights the subtleties in how we read faces in real time.
Wow. Okay, so summing up, facial attractiveness isn't simple at all, is it? It's this really complex mix of universal signals, like symmetry and averageness,
Plus our own internal states like hormones, our values,
and social influences, context, who we see others with.
and on top of all that, our ability to read genuine, fleeting emotional expressions is vital for connection.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, how much is your own internal state right now? Or even just who you happen to be around?
Yeah.
How much is that subtly shaping how you're perceiving the faces and maybe even the emotions of people you interact with without you even noticing? That's a really provocative thought to end on. It makes you want to pay more attention.
Definitely.
Well, if you found this deep dive as fascinating as we did, and you want to keep exploring these kinds of surprising insights from research, make sure you subscribe. That way you won't miss our next deep dive.